Well, Ford certainly like to let you know you're in a Ford. The logo's here, the logo's there. Oh, well, at least they didn't put it in both spots on this side. That would have been overkill. I have been looking forward to this one. This is a Ford Ranger. I've talked about it a lot. Now we can take a look at it. Gone is the cheap, nasty Ford Ranger of old from the 90s and 2000s. Say hello to the newer shape. A vast improvement. A market leader, in fact. The new Ford Ranger is quite something. I've been impressed with it, and I've driven quite a few pickups for this channel, and I would say this one's the best so far. This particular one is a 2016 Wildtrak 3.2 V6 in glorious Arctic white. It's got the looks, it's got the torque, it's got the capacity, and it's pretty damn comfortable too. Also, modern Fords tend to be very well spec'd. It's got a lot of extras in it and all. Ford really aren't afraid of putting their name all over it. And you could see why, just little touches like the soft open bed. And everything looks so neat and tidy in there. They've thought a lot about little features that people would want. I love the sound. The engine noise is just enough to let you know it's a 6-cylinder. The auto box is nice so far. So it feels very solid on the road. It's smooth through the changes, which you'd expect from a 6-cylinder. There's not a whole lot of wind and road noise. It's just the engine noise you hear. And that's no bad thing in this. It's not a clattery 4-cylinder. It's a nice, smooth, purry 6-cylinder. Brakes aren't spongy, they're nice and direct. Okay, the suspension's set a little bit harder than I would like for something like this, but it's not too bad, really. Now, when it comes to visibility, you've obviously got your high position. It's a pickup, you know, you wouldn't expect anything less. Your windscreen's not the biggest I've ever seen, but you can certainly see exactly where you're going, and the A-pillar's not overly sized. Your side windows are, again, a reasonably good size. And like most pickups I've been in, the back window's excellent. You can see straight out the back. There's no obstruction unless you're carrying a load. Also, when it comes to visibility, even if you're not sure how long the bed is, you still have a reverse camera in this one. So you can get pretty damn close to things. And the reverse camera is mounted low, so if you're needing to hitch up to a trailer, you can do it without so much trial and error. You'd probably get quite good at it with a bit of practice. I get the same feeling of smoothness at 55 that I do when I'm just crawling at about 5 or 6 miles an hour. Ford have actually done an excellent job with the ride quality on this. What I will say is, pickups might look great in white when they're clean, just like any car, but you can imagine these things will look pretty filthy quickly. I don't know if white is really the best choice. But hey, on the plus side, the door handles are not color-coded, but they're not that horrible textured finish that you find on commercial vans, that you can't change the color easily without rubbing them all the way down and then spraying, I don't know, 3 or 4 different layers of plastic primer on it before you can even put some paint on. I don't know why that stuff exists, and I hate it. It corners pretty well for a pickup too. About in line with the Amarok, I would say. So let's take a look at these door cards, shall we? I think this is the best equipped and stylish pickup I've looked at so far. If you have a look, there's varying grades of shades of color going on. Finally, compared to that Mondeo I looked at recently, these door handles right here are not that horrible tacky shade of silver. They're a nice sort of dark titanium, and it really adds a nice premium feel. The switches are reasonable. They're kind of premium-ish. They're the sort of standard now for cars of this type and pickups. And the lovely orange stitching really adds to the finish, especially when compared to the interior itself, which you'll notice is half leather, with a kind of textured orange finish and orange stitching, which I think is actually a really good look. And you notice the seats are full electric. You get your little metal side step there with the Wildtrak logo on it. And I don't know if the side steps are standard, but I certainly think they're an essential for something this high off the ground. This is the modern Ford dashboard. Rev counter on the right, fuel gauge, speedo, and then the entertainment and infotainment side on the left there. I think that works pretty well. I can't really have much in the way of complaints other than the fact that my hand placement on the steering wheel means I can't see the rev counter most of the time. But generally speaking, the engine noise is such that you don't really need to worry too much about that. Let's see, what have they done with this interior? Well, thankfully the bonnet release is on the driver's side, which is always a plus. Then working your way up, you've got the lights over on this side, which again I prefer to being on a stock. Much prefer that. Let me just climb in here. You'll notice the titanium continues with the vents, and the orange stitching continues up with a leather coated dash. In a pickup, that's a nice feature. I do like that. Moving on to the steering wheel itself, again the steering wheel has the orange stitching, so it carries on the design philosophy, and it's really nice to see steering wheels that are leather coated. I can't stand it when they don't bother. The exceptional amount of buttons is maybe a little bit overkill. I can understand that they wanted to integrate all the important stuff onto the steering wheel, but it's maybe a little bit overdone. Moving onwards, the stereo unit itself is well placed, facing up the way you don't get a lot of glare, which is fantastic. And you notice they've integrated the hazard light button into the bottom. This kind of weird, what would you call it? Grey, almost carbon fibre-ish look actually works, surprisingly. I think Ford have managed to get their ideas on what a dash should look like down to a T by now. You'll notice the climate control unit is really simplistic. It's designed to be compact, and initially, because I'm used to Volkswagen and other such things, I struggled to figure out where everything was, but once you got used to this, I would imagine it would be just fine. Heading down the way, you get your two 12-volt sockets, which is always a plus. And you'll notice there the USB and the SD card slots are down there too, which is very helpful. The cubby hole is nice and deep. You'll notice I have my keys in there, and it's not really phased the amount of space that you have at all. On from that, you can tell there's a few blanks in this one. It's obviously not top of the range, but it does have a lot of stuff for a model that isn't top of the range. Working your way back, you'll notice we have the gear lever, which also has the orange stitching, and the drive selection, which is kept nice and simplistic and easy to reach, which I find absolutely fine. Behind that, you have the two cup holders and you have a traditional handbrake. Nice to see that in a pickup. I see that in most of them, and I think I know why. So working your way back from that, you have the center console section, which is very deep, perfect, and it also has a secondary, which is kind of usable, more usable than most of the ones I look at. So I'll give Ford that as well. On to something else that's important, the glove box. That's a good size, and it has a special pocket just for the service manual, which I must say is very good. I'm happy with that. So, the access egress test. How easy is it to climb in and out? Well, with me not being the tallest guy in the world, bit of a short arse to be honest, I need this side step. Without it, I'm kind of struggling. But I just put one foot there and I'm in no problem at all. So I can't complain about getting into this one. Let's see what the back's like. I've seen worse. Yeah, not bad, Ford, not bad. Okay, so have we got cost cutting in the back? Well, no, the orange stitching carries on. You get nice deep door pockets even in the back, and that lovely titanium finish is still here. Onto the interior, we actually have pockets on the back of the seats. It's not devoid of extras back here, which I do appreciate greatly. These rear seats are also trimmed the same way as the fronts, which I've got to admit I quite like. Look at this. You actually get an armrest with cup holders in the back. Too bad, Volkswagen, you lose. What else is in here? You get a 12-volt socket and a 240-volt. Right, that's pretty special. Again, Ford wins hands down once more. Nearly forgot, transmission tunnel. It's not huge, but it's not small either. It's manageable. There's no big issues there. Somebody could still sit in the middle. They wouldn't be that comfortable, but they wouldn't be squished either. Other interesting things back here is you've got 2 hooks on the back there, which is nice to hang stuff up. I think owners will appreciate that. And also you'll notice this headlining is quite dark, giving this a sporty feel. The rear section here does not have a big metal fancy bar with spotlights on it, but it does have this funny contoured piece here, which is almost like a body piece that goes up and round, which actually is quite a nice look. I have my appreciation for that. The rear bed has many optional features added, like the custom rails here, and a waterproof 12-volt socket in there, which I'll give them positives for. The load liner itself is heavy duty, and you'll notice it gives information there on bits and pieces that you would need to know. So overall, I'm impressed with this bed too. In summary, the new Ford Ranger is a market leader with good reason. It's got plenty going for it. There's lots to get excited about. For me, if I was in the market for a pickup, this strong 6-cylinder that it's running would be its major selling point. But it doesn't end there. It's more stylish than a lot of pickups I've looked at. It's overall better looking than a lot of pickups I've looked at, but I guess that's a personal thing. I know it's a Ford. It should have a flaw. I, to be honest, can't find one. This thing's brilliant. Well, there you have it. Never thought I'd said I'd like a Ford, but there you go. I've left 2 thumbnails up here on the screen that are relevant. One's a Ford and one's a pickup. Hopefully you see some suggested stuff shortly, or maybe you are already. But either way, hopefully if you enjoy what I've done, like and subscribe, and check out some of our other lovely content. I release on a weekly basis, so keep checking back. Anyway, look after yourselves.